And this is something that will happen to you. If you go to France, please, please, for the love of God, try to practice your French. Try to, because, and this is something that I'll get to later on, especially when I get to Paris. I had some breakthroughs that occurred to me later on about the language situation, and there are some parallels with what's happened in Japan as well. It's getting better, but here's the thing, like it or not, English is now the common language in the world. It is the most common second language on the planet. But that doesn't mean that you should get lazy if you speak English. That doesn't mean you shouldn't make the effort to try to learn words and vocabulary as you go. That's why I really do recommend people try Duolingo. They should be a sponsor. I've been used Duolingo for years now. I think it's a great system. You know, I just remembered I forgot to mention something that was kind of magical, and it's because I don't have any photos of it, so I forgot to mention it. The first night I was in Sarzeau, we went for a walk from my great uncle's house. And Sarzeau itself is quite a clean town. There's a lot of the roads are made from, like, some of the roads are made from this very clean white stone. It's very unique in how pastel-ish, like very pale a lot of the downtown is. But the first night, I believe it was the first night, we were walking around, and he knows his neighbors, which is wonderful. And the first night, we were just going for a walk with his friends, and of course, I didn't know what the heck anybody was saying. I didn't know enough French. And I saw a glowing green dot, and then another, and then another. And we got to watch these fireflies just hang out in the forest near his house, and it was this really magical experience. And I learned the word for firefly, which I don't remember now, in French. And I was just kind of, because I felt excluded from the conversation, which is something that's going to happen to you when you go to foreign countries, because unless you're in certain countries where English is perceived as really cool, or the common language of the country, which there are places where people will fall back to English because, like I said, it is the second most, it's the second language of most of the world. But that's not going to happen everywhere. So you will have moments, if you're traveling alone, where you don't know what anybody's saying. And you just need to look at body language and do your best and try to pick up as much of the local language as you can, and humble yourself, because this is their home. This is what they speak here. And if you're going to go where they live, it's going to behoove you to learn the local language, at least a bit. Just try little bits. And a Duolingo is a good free way to do that as well. But I distracted myself by watching this little green firefly, and it really comforted me. And it was just overall kind of a magical little night. You know, we're walking around down these it's so dark, these side roads, just walking around these paths. They don't have a lot of city lights toward the edge of Sarzeau. And you get to the edge and kind of just look out to the bay. And it was a very lovely, very peaceful sort of ambiance. And now those are some of the most palpable memories I have of Sarzeau. Was a very peaceful place. The last night I was there, we had a little dinner thing. He invited a couple friends over. A couple people couldn't make it, a couple people came. And I helped him sort of clear the back porch and move the table and do these things. And we had a wonderful little dinner, and they tried to make me stuff that didn't have any milk products in it, which was kind of them. But overall, it was a good visit. It was certainly a culture shock, much more culture shock than what I would feel in England, mostly because of the very significant language difference. And now I had my sights set on Marseille, which would take, it was far, okay? It would take 12 hours, basically clear on the other side of France in the south. Now, I wanted to go to Marseille because my big goal was to visit the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, which I think they're calling it something else now, but it's thermonuclear in a good way, is the thing. They just call it ITER now, ITER, which apparently in Latin means the way. And the ITER experimental project is based in Cadarache, which is like an hour drive north of Marseille. Now, Marseille is the second largest city in France. There's a lot that it has to offer. And I did all this research, and I found what I thought was a cheap Airbnb. It was fine, but my experience was marred by what would be one of the hottest summers on record. In fact, in London, pipes were bursting. It was pretty crazy. If you look up the summer of 2022, you will see people were really worried in Western Europe. It was pretty intense. So, but we'll get to that when I get to Marseille. Meanwhile, my great uncle, who was a very generous, very thoughtful host, I really appreciated him hosting me. Even if he did get mad at me once for trying to have a snack at 11 a.m., that's one thing to keep in mind. Depending on the culture that you're in, a random snack could offend your host. And that's not something that's true in my culture. If you're having low blood sugar, we're very understanding about that. But the French people have a lot of pride in their food, and certain parts of France have very regimented meal times. And I'm not that kind of guy, and I learned that that's not how that works there. So those kinds of things will happen when you travel. But he drove me. We went back to Rennes, which is where he needed to go back to Rennes anyway. And it's where the significant train station was. And he showed me how around the very large train station. Not too bad. It was like 88 euros to get all the way. Cheaper than flying to get to Marseille via the train. And I would arrive in the evening. And I got on this train. Hopefully I was standing in the right place, because every train system's a little different. And I waved farewell, and he was very kind, and he's like, "Oh, let me know if you ever come back." And it was it was a very nice way to end one chapter and to start a new, and to see the French countryside. And this is something that I would learn about myself, as I quite enjoy seeing the countryside whisk by me, especially if I have a lot of leg room, because you get a feeling for how big a country really is. You get to see the terrain change over time, and they even had a little dining car. I don't think I got anything. I think I brought food because of the dairy allergy that I mentioned before. But it was a very nice experience getting over there. It was a while. It took a while to get there. We sort of went around Paris. I didn't get to see Paris yet. So we get into Marseille at night. It's dark. It's the end of the train line. There's a big, barrier. The train can't keep going. And I find myself in this huge train station. And I go up to one of the touch screens to buy a ticket for the metro, because I already know what metro I have to take. They have it's a subway. But then I have to take a bus to get to where I'm going, because my Airbnb is on the south side, which ended up being mostly a cool thing, because the countryside down there was really lovely, and I would be close to some lovely hiking. However, the touch screen wasn't quite working, and there was something wrong. I think it wasn't recognizing my credit card, which happens sometimes. And I will never forget this. One of my first experiences in Marseille was another tourist. I think he was from Mexico. He was from Mexico. And he said, "Nah, don't worry about it." And long story short, he was having trouble, and I sort of helped him interpret the Thingabit, the website that was being displayed on this computer. Anyway, the touchscreen computer that issues the metro tickets. And he bought tickets for both of us. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And then we go downstairs. I don't know where to go. I don't know where things are. It's my first time. I'm interpreting things. I was using Google Translate often, but even then, you can still get confused which train line I'm supposed to take, which metro line, I should say. And there are only two. There are only two subway lines in Marseille, which is kind of silly. But this one was going the right way. And I go down, and the entire station, well, not the entire station, but a lot of the station was very 1970 color scheme. The train comes in, it is burnt orange. The whole thing looks like it's from the 70s. And I get on the train, the smaller train, the underground, the subway. And I am holding this little ticket thing. And I plunge into the night. I find myself, we're above ground, we're below ground, we're above ground, we're back above ground. Super dark. I am in a foreign land. I don't know how hard it's going to be to catch the right bus to where I'm going. I get off, and I want to say I got there, and I ended up did I just walk? I think I couldn't find the bus. Yeah. I ended up just walking. Yeah. Now the advantage, of course, was that it was July. So there was still some twilight for like an hour. It wasn't completely dark yet. And finally, I get there, but there's no elevator. I had to walk up 3 flights of stairs. I think it might have been 4 flights of stairs with all my stuff. Let me tell you, it was such a relief to drop off my pack and meet my host and finally settle in Marseille. And talk to her for a while. But I somehow still had a lot of energy, and I just wanted to go out and enjoy the evening. Go out and see the sights. I wasn't so far from the coast. And that would be the first time I used one of these weird little renting bike things. And I'll talk about all of that and the attractive Ferris wheel right by the water and the twilight, and even the skate park that I came across. Talk about all that next time. Thank you so much for listening to Wanderous. It is a labor of love. If you are not already following this show on Spotify, please avail yourself. We have some amazing stuff coming up. Beautiful calanques, which are basically fjords right on the edge of the Mediterranean. I swim in the sea. I see an incredible, weird, futuristic, sort of like super community building designed by an architect called Corbusier. It was world renowned. Corbusier is very haunting. They just call it the unit of habitation. And there's a whole art installation on the top of that was quite enlightening and delightful. And we have a whole cuisine journey. The streets of Marseille, the coast of Marseille. It's very unique, fascinating. I really recommend you visit Marseille. Actually, it was a very delightful place that I would stay for about a month, actually. A little over a month. And of course, the whole adventure of somehow getting a 1-week unlimited Metro Pass, which was an adventure in and of itself. So feel free to comment on what you enjoyed, and if you have any questions, and just thank you for listening, and thank you for being here and witnessing some of these experiences with me and hearing this story. It's building up to something quite wonderful, quite powerful, and I look forward to sharing that story and all the stories next time. Aloha.